Um, uh, Howdy, welcome everybody. This is the governance working group meeting of Tag Contributor Strategy of the CNCF. Like all CNCF meetings is under the CNCF Code of Conduct. So be responsible and civilized and good to other people. With that, we can begin the meeting. Ed introduced himself. Did we do a round of introductions last week? Well, we'll do that later on when I know that Ed is listening. So,
Hi.
And
sorry,
okay,
I'm back
you're listening
now.
again.
Yeah.
So let's get the other people introducing themselves. I'm Josh Burkus, co-lead of this working group, and also co-chair of Tag Contributor Strategy. I work for Red Hat in the open source practice office, so I get to do this sort of thing on work time. I'm also a contributor to Kubernetes and etcd and a few other things. Rian?
Hi, I'm Rian.
Yeah.
I work for the Linux Foundation and working with the CNCF, help clean up tags and documents and things on this side. And I'm the tech lead for this group, and I'm a Kubernetes contributor previously, and yeah, just helping out in the tag. And Dawn.
Hello, I am, along with Josh and Catherine, also co-chair of the tag. I've been working in open source for 20 some years at companies like VMware and Intel. And I have a lot of experience in open source program offices and in community management, although I've kind of shifted to metrics more recently. So I'm director of data science for the Chaos Project.
Sandeep?
He did introduce himself on the chat. Or
okay, yeah. Got it. Okay. Yeah, so anyway, Sandeep is from India. He's been volunteering and helping out here and there a lot with Tag Contributor Strategy. He's one of the members of our Deaf and Hard of Hearing work group. I don't actually know where he works, so we won't mention that. Okay, intro's over. So we have agenda here. One thing I wanted to ask is, Ed, I know that y'all were overhauling the OpenEBS governance as part of bringing it back from archive.
Yeah.
If you wanted to add that to the agenda, you would be welcome to.
Okay. I can review that. You mean like do a review of it, if you'd like to?
Or where you need help or anything else, yeah. Let's go. Let me go through the
we can do that.
other things that we need to assign quick. Will you figure out what you want to do there? Oh, I should link to the KubeEdge review there. I really need somebody else to approve the KubeEdge review. It's done as far as I know. I mean, obviously you shouldn't just approve it. You should actually look through it and correct any grammatical mistakes, etc. But
I do have that on my to-do list for tomorrow or Monday, unless somebody else gets to it first.
Okay. They have not followed up with me about any of the issues that I identified, because there are a couple of major ones.
I think they commented on the pull request when you first sent it, saying that they were going to, but yeah, but we haven't seen anything. Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, no, it's just that one of the issues, is sufficient to hold up the graduation, in my opinion. Of course, the TOC gets to decide. So, and should be solvable, but they may need our help, which is why I was kind of expecting more follow-up. And that's, I guess, is not for the record because it's already here, is they transition between two different governance systems, but they didn't actually finish the transition. And so they're kind of operating parts of each of the two governance systems in a really confusing way. So yeah. Oh, aha, Sandeep. You know, that never came out before. Okay, cool. Okay, and then we have a whole backlog of governance review requests. So I was hoping, and it would, you know, and particularly I was hoping that Ali would be back so we could do this sort of completely to actually parcel these out and try to get a few of them done. I've assigned myself Pixie. So then taking
Josh,
reverse, yeah,
I'd like to be able to help.
Yeah.
I love jumping into things.
okay,
I'd love to be able to help with one of these reviews. I've never done one before for this group. So
Yeah.
if I could buddy up with somebody or
yeah. I would be happy to do that. I do
Cool.
have to tackle the Pixie one. What time zone are you in?
I'm in San
Are you New
Francisco.
Zealand?
I
Oh, in San
know.
Francisco. Oh, that's
yeah.
easy then. I'm Pacific also.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
some afternoon really soon, let's sync up and I'll go through the Pixie one.
Okay.
And you can see what we sort of look for. Because we're basically just trying to say, hey, does this project have stable governance? Are they actually following their own governance? As far as we can tell, can a new contributor joining the project figure out who makes the decisions?
I'll ping you. I'll ping you after this, and we'll figure out a time.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. That would be really nice. And it'll give you an opportunity to see kind of like different governances and different projects, right? Because what does make this a bit of effort for us is that projects are allowed to determine their own governance, and they do a whole variety of different things, and we have to figure it out every time we look at a new project.
Yeah.
So, you're still on Knative, yeah, Dawn?
Yeah, I'm still waiting for them to finish the changes that they're making.
Oh yeah,
to
that's true.
governance. So they have to they have to
And
finish.
they are
changing
arguing about
their
those
governance.
changes. Those
Yeah,
changes
they're
are not
still-
settled.
No, they're still arguing about them.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm following along on the pull request.
Yeah.
And I think there's an issue along it around it as well. So it's
Yeah.
So
Okay,
they have to figure that out, and then once they figure that out, they need to submit the issue, because I don't think they might have actually. I think maybe Ali completed the issue template, but I think we're gonna have to close it and start over with the new governance,
Yeah, probably.
or maybe we can just. I'll talk to Ali about that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you know, what that's going to come down to is a couple of things, which is one, just finding missing documentation. Because I mean, Knative has always been a multi-company project. You know, we're not going to find anything about leadership that's specifically broken, except that said that they're losing maintainers faster than they're replacing them. But things that are not documented, there's probably several.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because from a governance perspective, they have pretty solid governance. It'll be better once they merge the steering and the TOC groups together.
Okay.
But yeah, gaps in documentation or places where they maybe aren't following the process, I think are probably what we need to look out for.
Yeah, okay. So next one in cron order, supposedly Ali claimed Tecton.
Yeah, I think he did that before he went on vacation.
Yeah. I don't see a reason to dispute that. Would you be willing to take Kubo VN?
How urgent is that? Because I'm out for the next 3 weeks.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
Oof.
because I'm gonna be on vacation in Ohio, and then I'm gonna be at Fosse, and then
Okay.
I have a couple of extra days off in
Okay.
Portland afterwards.
We're gonna say, well, in that case, let's not assign you anything, because by the time you come back, the list of assignments might be different.
Yeah, or the priorities might be different.
Yeah. See, this is where we run into this. Like I said, slamming us with, because was the TOC is hitting us with a whole bunch of governance review requests right at the beginning of the summer.
Yep.
It's led to slow turnaround. Okay. Yeah, because the other ones we have KubeOVN, Linkerd, which is a bit of a political football. It's weird to go into one of these knowing out of the gate that they're not following their own governance. So, and yet it was requested by one of the current leadership. So, it's a little wild.
Yeah.
So I almost feel like we should go straight to the phase where we help them try to fix that rather than even bothering with the initial review. But,
Yeah, I mean, I've done this in other cases with the governance reviews where I've suggested that in one case, that was all over the place, and I suggested they put it in our template and then fill out the governance review. So I think in cases like this, I think it's totally fair for us to go back to them and ask them to fix something that's obviously problematic, and let them do that before they even submit it. It's just going to make it easier for us and the project.
Yeah. As far as I know, KubeFS is pretty straightforward. So one of the ones that might happen, Ed, actually is if you piggyback with me through Pixie, then maybe you could try KubeOVN.
Sure.
I wouldn't want to assign you KubeFS just because it is storage, and I don't know how much they compete with each other, but it just looks weird, right?
It's a conflict here.
So, and then Cert Manager, I don't know where they are. I think Cert Manager is one of the ones where it's actually going to be a blocker for their promotion, but it's not currently the primary blocker. So, okay. Well, other than that, we can't actually parse things out. So, okay, so Rian has the tag charter update.
Yes, I'm the squeaky wheel. So what I did is if you follow the document, so what I did is I made a PR. Thanks, Josh, for merging that. So if I can talk quickly through the document, if you want to open it on your side. So the people that's listed there, I'm only leaving Paris and...
Hey, Leon, do you want to share it?
Yes.
That might be easier.
I
That way we
do
can
that
walk through it.
Yeah, it's probably going to talk easier to it while we all look at the same. I was thinking everybody open it locally, but let's share a screen. Share. All right, you should be seeing the document now, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me move the chat away. So this part here, I've already made a PR and moved that into, we have a file for people that previously contributed to the tag. So I moved these people in there. Everybody that struck out was already there, so I just added the ones that's not struck out. I'm going to leave the primary author, Josh and Paris, up there at the top. Then introduction, I think is clear. TOC, I just didn't want to come out of the gate with an abbreviation, so I just updated that to Technical Oversight Committee. And I basically, following the template, instead of that, we will do this, I did responsibilities, and then we have the background. So I did a bit of an update there. Move a few things that we can carefully read through. I'm not going to go through all of that, and then the scope is
yeah. So let's go through some of these individually here. Right?
Okay.
So I like the changing to more generic cooperative groups rather than being specifically maintainer circle, because even though we want to run maintainer circle, we actually do other things. And you could argue like deaf and hard of hearing working group is a collaborative group, etc. Right? And so making that generic is really good. But for evaluating and fostering thing here is, I will point out, we just closed a working group where we were in fact evaluating how we do due diligence with projects. So I think that still is part of our mission. Because if
Mhm.
the TOC decides to do that kind of review again, they will probably put it back under us.
Yeah, it was
I would
because we
not
did
want
the
to
whole
remove that. Yeah,
due diligence where they did the 10% documentation for how to do. I thought maybe it moved out, but you know better. So if you can
yeah. Yeah, well, no, I mean, I do think the wording on that needs to be changed, but I don't think we want to just restrict it to governance review because we do more.
okay. Taking into account I have substantially shallower background on this than anybody else. I appreciate your input.
Yeah, and I would say the same thing for under the in scope. Like right now, we do not have a contributor recruitment health check sort of thing, but we would like to have one, right? If we had somebody actually leading that effort, we would develop one. So I don't necessarily want to rule that out of our scope. It's just not something we're doing yet.
Then we can change it. That's the name to be an. I think because this was kind of frameworked out initially, so I'll remove that, but there.
Yeah, and just say contribute to evaluating project governance and other aspects of project health probably, but I'll come up with wording.
Okay, so I'm gonna write that out.
So hold on, let me comment that.
I don't remember the keyboard shortcut to strike out. It's Alt Shift. Something.
Yeah, it seems good. The additions there. I don't know what that is either, the GB reps thing. I have no idea what that is either.
GB normally in other places is a governing board, but we don't have a governing board rep thing that seems valid here. So maybe we just scrap that out.
So actually, that's actually really interesting because I forgot that we put that in initially, and it is not something we've done. Which feels like an opportunity for a new contributor somewhere. That somebody who wants to come in and actually is into data collection.
Are you talking about the collection of current state of contribute strategies?
Yeah.
Then the out of scopes I felt is still reasonable. We specifically refer to Kubernetes SIGs because at that stage this was a SIG and the SIGs and Kubernetes was pretty close together. I don't know if we need to mention Kubernetes there, but I have no objection if we do.
Yeah.
Then I think a rest of scope is just the way it is. Then
Sorry. I was talking on mute. Can you back up to the collection of current state? I feel like this would have been something that would have been useful to do at the beginning, but I feel like now that we have the templates, like I feel like this would have been input into creating templates. I'm not sure that we need to do this anymore. Do you still think this would be valuable?
Well, so one thing, like if we had a volunteer come along and say, you know, hey, I'm a data analyst. I really want to do a survey of the projects in terms of how they run the project or how they feel like contributor recruitment is going or whatever, and like send it out to all the projects. Would we oversee that and have it be an official tag contributor strategy activity if we felt like the output was going to be valuable? I think we would. It's just not something we're currently doing. I don't know. I see the in-scope as things that we might do if we had somebody to do them.
See, I see the in-scope as things we are responsible for doing.
Yeah, there was a specific ask from the TOC that we do not kill things that we dream of, just because we don't have the people. So which kind of raised the point from Josh that we can have dreams in here even if we don't have people for them.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, okay, that's fine.
All right,
Yeah,
and then
and
roadmap. Oh,
I'm actually going to add an item because it's something that we manifestly do, and it's not currently in our scope. With which is collaboration with CNCF project staff on some project supporting initiatives. Because we do that, and we might as well have it listed on our charter.
oh,
Yeah.
all right. Any other additions for?
Mhm. Yeah. I think we should honestly delete the current roadmap and replace it with a link to our project board because that is our actual roadmap.
Yes, I think I would like that. We throw out all of this. That should be in, yeah. So I'll put in the project board there.
Because I mean, this was me and Paris brainstorming when we started the tag, and a lot of it's not even relevant now. The
Then we could have, we don't have to have the governance, but here, that's an optional, so we can discuss that, and everything under this is already covered in the README. So I'm gonna kill everything that underneath that I struck out. So
Okay.
unless there's objections to that.
So this feels weirdly out of order because we've got this heading called governance, but then we have a paragraph that's actually more generally about the tag.
Yes.
So I don't know what we were doing there.
You were crafting out a new thing that nobody know how to do. So
Yeah, well, I think
And
the header just needs to go bye-bye there. Uh,
but it still needs so at the moment then it's going to be sitting right under current roadmap, which and the project board. So we just need to decide if it makes sense
Yeah,
there or we want
so-
to move it somewhere else.
well, no, what we need is a different header there. Oh, see, there's the confusion. Governance was meant to be governance of the tag,
Yes.
and that's very confusing since we have governance working group.
Yeah. No. This is tag governance.
So I'm going to call that heading project or tag membership instead, which is an equally applicable title and far less confusing.
Yes. Correct. Yeah, because we got the governance group, which then
Yeah.
I also had to double read it when I started.
Okay. And the rest of this is just duplicated what's in the README. Okay.
Uh,
That looks good. We still need to revise a few things.
Good. So if we have half an hour, if you care, we could quickly clean it up and I'll go make the PRs if you
Yeah.
don't mind spending the
Okay.
time.
Or Ed, do you have anything that you want to discuss for OpenEBS?
If you guys want it, I can give you. I'm new to this group. I can give you like a 10-minute overview of how I approach structuring the governance documents, and maybe talk a little bit about what I saw was missing. in the
Oh, that would be
CNCF.
awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
My heart's in my hands as I do this, and so Rihanna, we actually met. I remember we met actually at KubeCon in Paris. Oh, you came to our
I
booth there.
think yes, I did.
You're from South Africa, I think. Is that right?
Correct.
I'm gonna get some water, but I'm still on audio.
Okay, so so look, I can spend 10 minutes and I won't spend any longer than that. I'll share my screen. And this is just a oh, hold on. Yeah, screen. Just give me 1 second. I just have to clean up my Chrome. Okay, oh damn. What happened there? So is everyone here? We got everyone here, cool. So OpenEBS, the 30-second overview for it. There was a company called Maya Data that created the storage product, creates persistent storage for Kubernetes, which itself is not a very persistent, it's not designed to be persistent. And then Maya Data was acquired by my employer called Datacore in 2021. And then through this sort of process where you have a kind of a startup company that gets acquired by a bigger company, context gets lost, people leave the projects gets to be like 7 years old, you know, it's stuff happens in there. And we fell out of compliance with our own governance policies. And a lot of the engineers working on it just want to be engineering. They don't want to think about the governance of the project. In fact, I see this quite a bit within some of the CNCF projects that often the projects are started by engineers, and the engineers, they'll copy paste the governance templates, the contributing templates, the everything else, and it's sort of like a tick box. We've got that stuff done, and our guys were guilty of that as well. So our project got archived for a bunch of reasons by the TOC. The first thing I did, I'm pretty new to the company. Like I only started here like 6 months ago. The first thing I did was just reach out to people within CNCF, talk to them about what went wrong. Said, look, I'm going to try to get that commitment to fix things. And then, so this is what I did from a governance perspective. And so this is a storage project for Kubernetes. We have about 25,000 new users each month, so about 1,000 a day. People sign, clusters get added. About 1 million containers get added that are OpenEBS enabled every week. So it's reasonably popular. So the one thing which I discovered from talking to Jorge Castro at Linux Foundation, and I didn't realize this, is that a lot of the projects they're using the centralized umbrella governance, or a lot of organizations are doing that, and they're creating a community repo and putting all of the documents in there. And then that totally made sense to me, and I didn't really see that documented anywhere before, because for us we had like 70 sub projects within the OpenEBS organization, and what our people have done is we've put separate governance documents in every single one of those, because there's a set of automated tools that look for those documents. So each one of them had a separate governance document and a separate maintainers document and license, which that it has to have, and README, etc. Then these documents all got out of date. So I put together an umbrella project, and then what I noticed OpenEBS didn't have, and which I think is such a good idea, is I put together a vision document. Because when we have a group of this is the first thing that I did. I put this together, and then I got the maintainers to add their own flavors to it. So half the stuff I can't understand anymore, but it is their flavor of it. But for this here, for a vision document, sorry, I skip all over the place. It's my a lot of people, when they first look at a project or anything really, they're trying to figure out, is this thing right for them? Like, is this what I think it is, or something else? Because there's so much documentation out there. So the vision does two things. Number one, anyone looking at OpenEBS on GitHub, either to use or to contribute or want to become a maintainer, can at least look at this vision and say, okay, this is what it does, this is what it doesn't do. And then it also helps our own team get more figure out the constraints and what they're allowed to work under. So with like any kind of company vision, I started with the vision, which is the Kubernetes Enterprise Storage Standard. So this is what we aspire to be. And then the mission statement is everything that we do now, and each word in that mission statement has a particular meaning for the folks. The scope, just like we were looking at in the document we had before, I'm not really a storage super expert, although I may look like one. I'm not really a great expert on it. So a lot of this stuff I don't understand to the same extent, but this just helps our folks, especially as they deal with the community who are asking for things. It helps them understand how to scope, what to say yes to and what to say no to. Because I always think when you say yes to something all the time, then you're actually inherently saying no to something else, because we've only got so many hours in the day. So we put together the in scope, out of scope, the values. There's no point in defining any values for your project other than the values of CNCF. Otherwise, you have to answer the question, why are your values different than CNCF? So like every other project, we just link out to the values of CNCF. And then we are mostly funded by Datacore. So there was some folks in our team wanted to not mention that, but I felt it's really important that you can't hide what you are. And this is as a storage product. And I was talking to Chris Anachek about this, and he recognized as well, a lot of storage companies, because of just the nature of the type of technology it is, it does lend itself well to having a single company sponsoring at least a major part of the project.
I don't think it has anything to do with the kind of project. Looking across the CNCF, the problem is that storage is a competitive space, because we have the same issue in other competitive spaces like network drivers, where it's difficult for any project, despite their best efforts, to attract substantial contributors who don't work for the project founder or project owner, because people who are interested, because they're basically in competition with other projects to recruit contributors. You follow me?
Yeah.
Like I would say, if we were in the situation where, say, there were only 2 storage projects of any kind under the CNCF, I think both of those projects would have an easier time recruiting general contributors, because people would be like, oh, hey, you want to work on storage, you go to one of these 2 projects. But instead, for the CNCF, it's like, I don't know, 15 projects. And, and effectively all 15 of those are competing to recruit unaffiliated contributors.
I think, Josh, as I listen to you, usually there's a mixture of reasons,
Yeah.
and I'm sure that's one. Here's what I see. Because I think you're absolutely right, but I think I'm right as well. That because for something like, we have one particular engine, a storage engine inside OpenEBS called Rawfile, and we're actively trying to make sure that no one within Datacore develops it, that we're encouraging more community people to do it. But those folks just haven't got the time. Like, for some reason, just the amount of effort required, it requires either, this is what I see, and I'm not a storage developer, but that it takes so much effort of several people to do one of these engines, because you're dealing with blocks sitting on disk drives. So my guess is that you're right, but it's probably a mixture of those things. So anyways, started with the vision. The one where I've spent a lot of time is in the governance document here. We've again, every one of these governance documents has got like an umbrella blurb at the top saying that this applies to every project within the organization. So the way that we defined it in terms of the contributor ladder, and I think we're still trying to figure this out, because we actively want to bring maintainers in who don't work for Datacore. We don't want to prevent people from doing it, but we also we have to find a ladder that makes sense. So I think for our project, we did a lot of improvements, but there's some fine tuning we have to do, which is not unexpected. But the way that we define like 5 roles, and this is the way that I'm thinking of that. We're thinking of them. There's an admin, which is just the organization admin and GitHub. The maintainer. We've also got this role called a special maintainer, and it kind of recognizes that there are people who have a particular speciality that we want to encourage and give a set of responsibilities to. but it doesn't make them a maintainer, because a maintainer is somebody that we feel has got they've been given responsibility and authority and hopefully the ability to get things done, but there's also an expectation of those people that they are available, that they've got, you know, that they can be broad and everything else as well. So
Yeah, I mean,
sorry,
a
I'll
lot of
finish
a
up,
lot
yeah.
of a lot of other projects have that distinction. In Kubernetes, the special maintainer is called a sub-project maintainer.
Yeah.
Because there really is this sort of idea is that people can have ownership and approval rights and responsibility for a very specific thing. And it's a nice step between, you know, regular contributor to, you know, general project maintainer.
I think so. I'll finish up in 2 minutes. Just give me one more thing. The one thing which I really caution the folks on is, like, when you think of that contributor ladder, don't overbake it, because, you know, we are just we are an open source project. We are a small group of people. We're not a multi-tiered corporation. So make it simple for people to understand. But then also this process of how do you become a maintainer? How does that approval process works? What are the expectations to remain a maintainer, and how do they get removed? I really wanted to so closely document that, because that's a very important part. You know, that's the election process for us. So anyway, that's what we did. I can stop sharing now. You know, I think my net from this is that in doing this process, it made everyone think about the governance. So it wasn't just a tick box for them. We've got those governance documents. It's like your mortgage papers when you buy a house, not just sign. It actually makes you think about what we're doing here, what we're committing to. Anyway, that was my show and tell.
Yeah, so I have an observation for our working group. And then a couple of questions for you. One of the observations for working group is, so when we created the template for the Umbrella project, one of the things I actually realized is, because of the original project that was drafted for, which was Conveyor in its original form, it was for an Umbrella project where there was no core project, which was true of Conveyor. And we don't have any instructions or a variant for the core project with lots of semi-autonomous subprojects, which is also a pattern. And that just came up recently, actually, for another project where I was looking at their governance, where just the distinction between the core project and the subprojects was not in any way clear. And I realized, hey, we haven't given people good examples of how to make that clear. So, yeah, my questions for you there are, so I didn't get as far as seeing, so what is the governance for the overall Umbrella OpenEBS project? Do you have a steering committee?
There's no steering committee. There is a group of maintainers at the moment. Those maintainers all happen to work for Datacore. I mean, we had to reboot the project, but it is set up with the intention that, well, actually one of them doesn't, but it is set up for the intention that we can bring other people on who are non-data. Over time, that can change. And in fact, we're getting back into Sandbox, and then hopefully, then after that, we'll go for incubation. So no steering. And the reason for the steering, not having a steering committee, because we used to have one in the government documents, is that it wasn't really used.
Well, I mean, you still have a steering committee. It's just a different group of people that are selected in a different way. So the question is, one of the important things is, how are those people selected? Because one of the things you have to look at here is, you do want to leave it open to a sufficiently motivated person working their way up. And to do that, you want to have it documented somewhere of, hey, if I want to be part of this Umbrella maintainer group, what do I have to do to get there?
Yeah.
And I did not, because like you have your contributor ladder there, but the contributor ladder stops at project maintainer. It doesn't go to umbrella maintainer.
The project maintainer is the umbrella maintainer. So we've got,
Oh, so all project maintainers are part of the umbrella maintainers group?
yeah, so there's a contributor,
Okay.
there's a special maintainer, which is kind of like a which can be given it can be given maintainership of a sub project. It can be given a role such as community manager or CNCF liaison or something like that. And then those people, that's part of that ladder that that they can then move up from there to maintainer.
Right, but I mean, here's the thing that I'm confused by. Right. So give an example of one of your sub projects. What is the name of one of your sub projects?
Raw file as a sub
Okay,
project.
so raw file, right?
Yeah.
So imagine that I'm a maintainer imagine that, I as a community member jumped into raw file and did a whole bunch of work on it to get it to production quality, et cetera, and became maintainer of raw file, right? Yeah. Am I automatically part of the umbrella maintainers as well, or is there another step to do that?
So we're going, I'll get, this is a real example. So we'll walk through that. So most of the work's done by Mehran. So Mehran is, he's not an umbrella maintainer. He has no voting rights over the entire project. This is documented in that governance document. He is invited along to the maintainers meetings when we're discussing raw files. So we've had him in 2 or 3 times to say, okay, your issue list is growing. So that, because each one of them's got their own, there are certain problems that he has to address.
Okay. Do you understand the problem I'm identifying here?
Maybe or maybe not. Do you want to tell it to me again?
There is currently no way through the contributor ladder to get to the umbrella maintainer status.
There's no formal way, you mean, of doing that?
And if there's no formal way, that means that there's no way.
Right. I think in that case, from listening to you, we better make sure that we formalize that way.
Right.
I had problem with, sorry, being totally honest, like you guys have done an amazing job putting together documents.
Yeah.
But I had problem with the governance that I saw beginning with that. They had something like, to become a maintainer, you need to have like 3 months of contributing code. There was a bunch of pull requests and things like that. My issue was, and I'm happy to be proven wrong, I don't know if that makes you a good maintainer. Like that's what I really struggle with, is that like people getting promoted to the level of their incompetence is that sort of classic. I want to know that we are promoting people to become maintainer, and you're right, we probably do need to document it better. But how do we choose those folks who are going to steward the, you know what I'm asking?
Right.
Yeah.
But one of the problems that you're dealing with there, particularly when you're dealing with a project that's dominated by a single company, but you want to recruit people from outside that company if those people exist, right?
Yeah.
Is you have to fight your own biases.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have a much better view of the level of responsibility and competence of your coworkers than you will of outsiders. And so, like, one of the reasons for putting all the quantitative measures into the suggested contributor ladder was to give you an index of, hey, these are the people we should be evaluating for promoting. Because, like, particularly one of the problems we run into Kubernetes all the time is Asian contributors do not tend to get promoted as quickly, simply because most of the SIG meetings happen during hours that are not great for Asian contributors.
Yeah.
And as a result, they're less visible. And so having a set of quantitative measures gives you a candidate pool, if you follow me.
Yeah.
And also, if people are going to have a fight about whether or not they're going to be promoted, having quantitative measures gives you a way to settle that fight. Particularly in the very common case where somebody was a maintainer and they've stopped doing the work of a maintainer, but they don't want to give up their status.
Yeah.
So But if you look at all the suggestions for each level, there are both quantitative and qualitative measures, right? Because obviously you don't want to promote somebody to maintainer who, no matter what great technical work they do, is somebody who likes picking arguments and getting into fights, right? That
Yeah.
person should not be a maintainer, even if they are doing absolutely brilliant technical work.
Yeah, I think it's really important. You know, the templates make a distinction between the criteria, like the quantitative and qualitative things, and the decision-making process. So somebody doesn't automatically become a maintainer just because they tick all the boxes. There's always a separate approval process. So where, you know, in a maintainer council sort of situation like the one you've described, the maintainers get to approve those people, but it gives people a sense for when to ask to become a maintainer as well. And I think that's really important because you get people who are, you know, new contributors, and they just see people from the company contributing and they're like, oh, well, I'm never going to become a maintainer. I'll just, you know, keep doing what I'm doing. But if you have that more quantitative criteria, they can be like, oh, well, you look at all the stuff I've done, and maybe this does qualify me to be a maintainer. Now I'm going to step up and ask if this is a possibility for me. So it encourages people outside of your company to think about when it might be appropriate for them.
I'm hearing you guys, and
Yeah.
you're absolutely right. I guess one of the let me go away, and I'll suggest to the maintainers. I'll take that feedback back, and we need to figure out something. I don't want us just to throw in a generic. I want us to be very thoughtful on this, so that actually what we write down is what we will follow as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, one of the nice things with a project that's already in operation, as opposed to a brand new project that has just barely launched, is that one of the ways you can determine the criteria is look at who you already have as umbrella maintainers and sort of see what their qualifications are.
Yeah.
And then write your profile based on that. And I mean that should be true at all levels, right? Not just the umbrella maintainers, because you don't want to be in a situation where somebody who is doing useful work at a particular level doesn't match the qualifications, and so at some point somebody questions whether or not they should be at that level.
There's also this notion of, if we're speaking honestly about it as well, you know, when you look at any kind of project, usually has a mixture of people. Like it'll have like any success outside of CNCF, outside of, you know, Kubernetes, you know, you'll have engineers, you'll have product management, you'll have tested QA, you know, different, and then you'll also have different backgrounds as well that will more represent the user base that we're using. So I do want us to find a way that we can kind of promote that, or just to make sure that we're hiring what the project needs, not necessarily exactly the similar backgrounds. But let me think about that. I really appreciate everyone's time and thinking about this and the suggestions. And so I will go away and not just copy paste what other projects have got, but look at them and think about what makes sense for us, and then I can review with you guys and be really, really open for any suggestions. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, that's great.
Hopefully that helped. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and with that, we're just about out of time, so I think we should finish up with the charter Rian on Slack.
Yes, I'll appreciate if we can knock that out the next day or two, and I'll make the PRs and get it all rolled out. Thanks for all the help, people. And Ed, thanks, that was a really nice discussion.
Yeah.
If more projects will come around, we'll have greater meetings around here.
Yeah.
Love to have you.
Cool. Awesome.
Have a good week.
Okay, talk to you later on.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers.
Josh, I'll reach out to you too.
Schedule some time. Yeah, absolutely.